Welcome to Rock Talks. Today we're talking to Sean Z, singer from the band Sinsaenum, where he plays with former Slipknot drummer Joey Jordison. Sean Z is also known for being the frontman of Daath and keyboard player slash backup singer for Chimaira between 2011 and 2014. We will know everything about the status of his projects and of course his world famous beer. Hi Sean Z, welcome to Rock Talks. It's a pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Just hanging in there, waking up just a couple hours ago. I kind of slept in. Been busy making music all over the place.
All right, sounds great. So let's get right into the music. For those who don't know, you're actually right now the singer of this band called Sinsaenum. Did I say that correct? Sinsaenum?
Yep, Sinsaenum. Yep,
Sinsaenum.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
All right, thanks. So this band has members of Dragon Force, Daath, of course, Slipknot, and also Mayhem. My question is, how did you put this band together? Tell us about the creation of this project.
So a lot of that was Fred. When I was in Daath, I had played, we did a tour with Dragon Force, Daath did. And, one of those things at the end of the tour, people always say, hey, man, we should do a band together. But Fred and I became friends. And he literally said to me at the end of the tour, he's like, dude, one day we should do a band. And that was in 2009. So 5 years later, he gives me a text and he's like, hey, do you want to do this band? I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? I'm just in the middle of Chimaira right now. Daath had kind of dissolved at that point and I was, kind of busy doing Chimaira stuff. And I said, I'd love to. And then he goes, yeah, we're going to get Joey on the drums. We're going to get Attila on vocals. And I was just like, well, shit, I'd love to be in it.
Yeah.
And then, the rest is history. We wrote a lot of songs and, shoot, man, like 20 songs for that first album. It all is pretty much Fred. He writes it all. It was his baby. But I definitely, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done for sure.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about the musical direction of Sinsaenum? Because to me, it sounds like a mix of a bunch of different subgenres of metal. You can hear a lot of death metal,
Yep.
a bit of black metal, but also a bit of thrash metal in some songs. So what's the musical direction? What's the musical approach?
So it's basically just everybody pulling from their influences. I'm from Atlanta, so I listen to a lot of hip hop. I listen to a lot of metal. I grew up doing metal, so my metal style has this kind of like groovy, because I listen to a lot of hip hop, you can hear that in my vocal patterns. And then obviously you have Fred, who loves death metal. He loves Morbid Angel. That's kind of always been his bread and butter. So you hear that influence. And then Steph, the other guitar player, he was and still in, they just did a new album, Loud Blast, and they're a thrash kind of metal band. And then obviously you have Joey, and he just kind of does everything. So sometimes you hear a little Slipknot, sometimes you hear a little Morbid Angel, sometimes you hear a little thrash. I mean, Joey's listened to everything as well as all of us. So his influence is definitely shown on the album. But as far as like direction wise, I think we just try to, give it a little bit of everybody's, forte, I guess, and Attila, not forget Attila, he's black metal. So he adds that black metal element to it. And, when you have him there and you have Joey there, I guess when they write, they just try to write for that, they try to write to everybody's strengths, the best way to put it.
When you put all these elements into the bowl, let's say, is it difficult to write songs?
Not at all. I don't write the songs, Fred does, but we had already pretty much written the third album. And he kind of put it on hold, just through some personal issues. And also he joined Creator. So he got really busy with the band Creator. He's the bass player in that band now. But as far as writing the songs, it seems like they just pour out of Fred. He's just this masterful creator, man. And just how many songs that dude has churned out is just mind blowing. And then, he sends it, I guess he writes a lot of the stuff, and then him and Steph kind of work on some stuff and work on the guitars. And then when it's a more finished product, it gets sent to me, and then I'll just basically freestyle on everything, because I write songs pretty quickly. And then a lot of it's garbage, but it's just me kind of just spitting, and eventually we refine that, we fine tune it, and then we're like, well, where can we put Attila at? And we pick strong songs and weak songs, and then some we just you just say that we're not going to do that one. So there's a lot of those I have, just I listen to sometimes, and it's interesting that we killed some of them.
Yeah. And what's the deal with Attila? He's like one of the singers of the band. He's like a I forgot the word, but I saw a bunch of videos of Sinsaenum, and you appear as a main vocalist in many of them. There is no Attila, so I'm kind of confused about that.
So when we initially started the band, we weren't really sure who was going to do what. And, there was a time when I said to him, I was like, hey, man, if you want the reins, you can have it. And then his whole idea was, he's like, I want to be a ghost behind you, and I want to be like your shadow. And so, because that's what he does. He's in the shadows. He's like a very, what's the best word? Theatrical. He's an entertainer. I mean, that guy literally is an entertainer. He was born to entertain and be on a stage. So, he wants to do like the more theatrical part of it. So, obviously we planned on doing more touring, but COVID and everybody has their own project. So it's really hard to kind of get everyone together. But yeah, he wasn't actually as available to do as much on the second album because he was busy with Mayhem. And, there's nothing you can really do, so we had him do a couple songs, but then we had to shoot videos. And when we shot the videos, he was on tour. So we just kind of picked songs that he wasn't in to do the videos for. But, there's like 3 or 4 songs on the last album that he's in, but not all of them, obviously. There were probably some that he may have been in that we cut, but, nothing to him. It was just more like, the song itself didn't, wasn't crazy. So I was like, let's not put that one on the album. And then, you rewrite it or you cut it up into pieces and you use it in another song, whatnot. But yeah, I was just gonna say he's there, man. And it's just more, that's really the role that he wants to play as more than anything. So, we both are vocalists, and I definitely would give him the reins if he wanted it, but he's just so busy.
The word I was looking for is guest. So he's kind of like a guest actually for the band. He's not. No.
I mean, I'd say he's an official member because he actually adds a lot to the writing process. We have to think of how to put him into every song. If it was a guest, he'd only be on one track. I see him as, like one time I heard Corey kind of say something, or maybe it was Joey in some interview, and they were talking about Slipknot, and they were talking about how every member is essential. So, that one sound that Sid makes, if it's not there, it's like it doesn't feel like it's the whole band. So I kind of take that same approach. Like even if Attila is just making some sounds in the background, that's just something that I couldn't provide. So I definitely see him as a member of the band.
Mm-hmm. All right. How can you describe working with Joey Jordison on the studio?
So Joey and we became, very close friends on the last tour we did because we were the only 2 Americans. So like we pretty much traveled everywhere together. Like we left, America together to go on the tour. We flew back together, so we got really close. And at first for me, it was, I've always been, like I'm sure everybody, a huge fan of Slipknot. And I don't know, it was crazy to pick his brain and just ask him all the questions that you always wanted to ask Joey about Slipknot and, how they got formed and what it was like and, what life was like before you got signed and, what was it like when you got signed? And, I asked him so many questions, man. I probably annoyed him, but it finally got to the point where we just became friends. And, now when I talk to him, it's, I don't have to ask him those questions anymore. And I think the honeymoon, so to speak, is over, but, we're still friends and he's a great dude, man. He's a great musician.
Let's talk about Chimaira for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
You joined Chimaira back in 2011 for the Age of Hell tour. And what's the story of your incorporation to this band?
Well, we were friends, kind of going way back. Daath had toured with Chimaira quite a bit. And when we were in Europe, Matt DeVries had a baby and Emil had to fill, the guitar player had to fill in. So we kind of started this relationship where they needed us and we liked hanging out with them. So they the bass player, after we had gotten back home, he got married, and so since Emil knew the songs, they asked Emil to play bass. So again, we already kind of had a tour scheduled. They were like, why don't we just bring Daath out? I was like, all right. So we ended up going back out with Chimaira again in the States. And Mark and I were like, really good friends. We had developed a friendship in Europe for, months. And then, when we toured in America, him and I became literally like best friends. So we had done a little bit more with them touring wise. And then one day I get a call and Mark says, hey man, do you want to be the keyboard player? And he goes, really, we just need a guy who's good with computers, but I know you play keys, and then you can scream and we can hang out and it'll just be like best friends on tour. I was like, yeah, of course. So began that, and we toured with the original members for a while, and then they split, and then we decided that we wanted to keep the band going. So that's when we brought in Matt, and then we brought in Jeremy on bass. And the rest is history. We did an album together. We became best of friends. Those were some of the good days, man. Honestly, some of my favorite days of touring. I really miss those days.
Yeah, I remember the Chimaira days. Some people like
Chimaira. Yeah, dude, I miss those days, man. They were good. They were good. But in the end, it started to get kind of tough, and we all just kind of went our separate ways. We had done it like 4 years, I think. Somewhere around there is at the peak. Yeah. So it was just time to move on to the next thing. And I had Sinsaenum going on kind of at the end of Chimaira. So that's why I just, I was starting to get checked out because I was the keyboard player, but I was also having to be a vocalist. It was like pulling me both ways. So, obviously when the band split, I just said, all right, I guess I'll leave too.
All right. Let's go back a little bit to this keyboard thing on Crown of Phantoms.
Yeah.
In my opinion, your keys, your synth sounds a little bit more like techno, like old school techno.
Yeah.
Compared to the work of Chris Spicusa, there is a difference. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, big time. I mean, Chris was using a lot of PC stuff. I'm sorry, Mac stuff or whatever. He was using a lot of samples and waves and digital stuff. And what I did was I had a Nord lead. It's a keyboard, analog synthesizer basically. So it brings that 70s, 80s kind of vibe. And then we used a Moog, so we were able to really just pull from all these places that I had always wanted to do. So that's just my electronic side of it. I listen to a lot of industrial, a lot of techno, but I wouldn't call it techno. The stuff I listen to is more like the synth wave, nowadays. But yes, I guess that was just what I brought to the table. The music just lended to it, and that's just what I felt, But I thought Spicusa did great stuff, especially some of his Resurrection stuff, because having to learn all that shit was not easy. That was not easy. Listening to every song, and then after a while, I was able to finally hear. I could pick it apart if I listened to it close enough. But just listening for the or the boo. Like, oh wait, this that part. Boo. I'm telling you, man, it was a challenge. Man, there was times when I was pulling my hair out. I'm just like, man, I just can't do this. But then they made a joke. They're like, hey, as long as you're hitting most of them, I'm sure there's not a guy in the crowd like, God damn it, Z missed another one of those boos. I am never coming back to this band again.
Yes,
people didn't really know.
Sadly, the work of Spicusa is a lot of the times really overlooked.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize about the sounds because it's kind of like in your subconscious. Like really in the back of all the guitar, the bass, the drums, the voice, but it's actually there, and it's helping to develop all the sound.
I agree. Yep, and if you don't hear them and they're not there, the band sounds way different without them. Because I'd hear them warming up or practicing, and I wouldn't be in there, and it's like, wow, it's crazy how much it adds to it. I really loved what he did. And I know on the first album he was really loud, but I remember the rumor was on the second album the label said just turn that down. And so a lot of his stuff on Possibility was really, really quiet. And I think that's some of like the best stuff. So I don't know, I mean, it's all good. He finally got his recognition, at least by me. At least somebody was able to appreciate it, because I definitely had to hear it all.
Yeah. And the good part about your incorporation to Chimaira is that you put your own style, your own contributions to the band. I remember a lot the song, the Transmigration.
Yeah.
When I heard the synths on that song, I was like, it was like somebody was pulling me from the hair back to the 80s. Going back to the future, like, wah,
that's
wah,
great. Yeah. I also, another big thing for me is I was able to put my voice on there. There are some screams of mine that are actually on that album, I think every song I have a backing vocal, or I have like my own scream. And to me, when I was doing it, I was so unappreciative of it. Now I look back, I'm like, the fact that I even got to open my mouth, I mean, on a Chimaira album, like I've been a fan of them forever. So the fact that I even just got to go, one time, I mean, let alone every song, just about. So It was really a dream come true, man.
Yeah. And why did you leave the band in 2014? I remember Amol was the first one to quit. Yeah. And then all the rest of the band left at the same time, right?
Well, I mean, we figured after Amol left, because like I said, we were all kind of getting burned out, and we had just had a lot of stuff happen to us. And, sometimes it just really kind of puts a tarnish on, I guess just the whole everything, I guess, the energy of everything. And, it was just one of those times where it was time to move on to the next thing. We had done it for a while. We were playing somebody else's songs. We were playing some of our own, but at the same time, it's just, you want to get out and do your own thing. You don't want to, be tied to something like that forever, because you want to make a name for yourself. Like, for instance, doing Sinsaenum for me. So it's just a natural progression of things, no real specific reason. It was time. I think, we had just had so many highs and lows. And, just one of those times, man. It's time to move on.
Yeah, it's like this. Like they say, when a door closes, another three different doors open up.
Yep. Nope. Exactly. When one door closes, three more open up. That's exactly what they say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had lots of opportunities to do some cool stuff since then, and I definitely have to give Chimaira a lot of credit because I'm still known as ex-Chimaira. Whenever they post something, they always post ex-Daath, ex-Chimaira. So to me, that's fucking cool. That's really fucking cool. I love those guys, and all that they allowed me into their hearts and into their band. And, hopefully I left at least somewhat of a decent legacy, while we were there.
Oh, for sure. I already have. I own all the Chimaira collection back there.
That's awesome.
Crown of Phantom is back there, of course. And let's talk about Daath, your first band, let's say. What's the current status of Daath? Is there any chance for the band to resuscitate?
If there was, we would just do an album. There's been talks in the past of, hey, let's do an album. We should do one more or this and that. But I just feel it's just not the time. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. Now things are even tougher. I know Amol was doing a lot of his own work. I know Kevin had a kid. Jeremy and AL and I had spoke about possibly doing an album this year, but if we don't have everybody on board, it's just not the same thing. So you have to have everybody, and you have to make sure everybody wants to be in it, or else the music will suffer. So I think in time it'll happen, because I actually talked to all the guys at some point here and there. Our relationships are all pretty good. So it's just a time thing, man. Time heals all wounds. And it was just, Daath had been through so much again as well, like a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And, it was kind of, the tours were getting better, but the problem was it was really weighing on us because, we weren't really making any money. So it's like, you can only do so much before you break, and it's like, all right, we got to move on to the next thing. And that's how the Chimaira thing happened. And it was almost, like I said, just this natural progression of, like you said, one door opens, one door closes, two more open. And that was basically it. it was like, here's the next level. Do you want to take the ticket to go? And it's like, this band's kind of whatever. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. And AL, look at he's made a name for himself. He does all his recording stuff. The Unstoppable Recording Machine. I mean, the dude has worked with some massive bands. So I got to give everybody credit for what they've done in behind the scenes since the Daath days. So there's a lot of people that want it to come back. So maybe it'll happen sooner than later.
Yeah, like you said in other interview, you want Daath back? All right. Where the fuck were you 10 years ago when we were touring our asses off?
I mean, it's one of those things where we just didn't get the name out. It was a weird time in the internet era. Social media was kind of at this like about to take off, but hadn't quite taken off. Instagram didn't really exist. We were right at that cusp of about to be on the edge of social media. So that's why, the Facebook page doesn't have many likes or whatever it is. There isn't an Instagram page because we got in right before that actually happened. And it was literally right before, like, 2006, 2007, 2008. I don't think Instagram came along till like 2012, 2013. So it was right there. We just missed it. Had we come out maybe a few years later, maybe things would be different. But yeah, that is my joke. Like, where the fuck were you 10 years ago? I got all these other things I'm doing. We'll talk about that. But honestly, though, I'd love to do an album just because every time I work on something here at home, I'm always like, man, I could save this for a Daath album or something. So, sometimes I'm reserved with what I do.
Yeah. So right now you are only like good friends with each other in the band, but no talking about doing an album or get together, nothing right now.
Nothing at the moment. No, it's more just doing Sinsaenum stuff. That's kind of going to take priority once that starts coming back and forth to me. So I won't even have time for it. Honestly, it would have to be after this album is out, so that the hype dies down. Because I don't want to steal from that thunder, like, oh, Sinsaenum, like, oh, Daath. Like, I'd rather this kind of album come out, the cycle kind of die down, and then maybe talk about doing a Daath album.
I still remember the first time I heard about Daath. I logged into the Ozfest page back in 07, 08, and I saw the lineup section of the website, and there's this band called Daath, and I was thinking to myself, what the hell means Daath? It reminds me a lot of the band Death, from Chuck Schuldiner.
Yeah, of course.
What?
No, it was already named. I had, that's kind of how I came up. I was in a local band around here, and they were also in a local band around here. So when they got
play
signed,
Ozfest, right?
I did not play Ozfest. No, I joined them literally right after they played Ozfest. Because I guess there was issues with the old vocalist. He actually didn't sing on the first album. It was the keyboard player. Yeah, so the keyboard player is actually the vocalist on the first Daath album. And then I guess what happened was the label wanted to replace him, so they just had their friend Sean Farber come and join the band. So he had never done anything with Daath. Yeah, because I played locally with them, and it was always Mike Cameron was the vocalist. So all of those vocals that you hear is actually Mike Cameron. They got signed that way. It was just AL and Mike, and then they brought on Emil and Jeremy. But yeah, that was a big part of the band, was just AL and Mike. They were basically the band. And like I said, the label, I guess when they got signed, said, you need another guy as a singer. We think this guy could be better. So the album was already done and recorded. So Sean Farber never actually sang any vocals on the album. But they, as nobody who knows who the band is, that's just what they put on the album. They were like, Sean on vocals, Mike Cameron, keyboard vocals. And then when they do it live, Sean kind of just did his own thing. And then Mike
did the video clip, right?
He did the video, exactly, but that's not him. That's the keyboard player. If you listen to Futility, if you notice, Sean Farber wasn't in the band in Futility, but they sound exactly the same. It's like,
didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. So it's funny when people are like, bring back the other Sean. I'm like, what the hell is he gonna do? He didn't even sing on the album, but I guess I keep forgetting. I'm like, oh yeah. Because you guys think that, yeah.
Yeah.
But he just he was there for all the photos. That's just what bands do. Sometimes the album's already written and members have to be replaced. And since they were a new band, nobody really knew who Daath was. They just started, being like, Sean's the singer, Mike's the singer, Mike's the keyboard player. But yeah, if you listen back, you can tell.
Kind of like what happened to you with Chimaira back in 2010. You didn't record the Age of Hell, but you appeared on the photo, the promo photo, right?
Yep. Everyone thinks that it was me, and I'm like, whatever. It's all good. It's too hard to explain. But,
who did the electronics on that album?
It was Mark. Mark did a lot of them, and I think the producer in the studio, Ben Schigel, and then I think actually Mark's girl, Lauren, did a few of them too. So they just, did them by themselves. Yeah, I was like, that's cool. Sounds great.
Yeah. And some people also believe that Austin Diamond played drums on that album, but it was actually Ben Schigel.
Exactly. Yeah. See, so it's irrelevant. Once it comes to, push comes to shove. Yeah, it's just, it's whatever. That's why you don't even bring it up. You never hear about it. It's more just, it's all hearsay. But yeah, that was basically what it was for Daath. So yeah.
All right.
I actually was replacing Mike Cameron, not Sean Farber.
Got it. Noted. So last question, Sean.
Yes.
A really stupid one. Do you still own that T-shirt that says, "Yes, it's a beard"?
I sure do, man. I sure do. But now my beard, I think we're on. I don't know. On here. Now I think my beard is. Yeah. I think I'm on like 10 years now, or 12 years. I've had the beard, so yeah, I still have that shirt. There was some random fan that made it for me back in the day. Yeah, because I brought it up in interviews all the time. People would always ask me the same, like, "How is that a beard? Like, is it real? How long have you been growing it?" And so that's why I was just like, on the shirt. On the shirt. There were people when we played Japan, they actually thought it was a fake beard. They were like, "Is that a fake beard?" I'm like, no, it's real. It's real.
So it goes all the way to your belly button.
That goes below my waist. Yeah, it's like below my belt.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I cut it. I cut off about 6 inches every 5 or 6 months. I cut off about 6 inches.
And is it comfortable, to do your daily work, or?
What do you mean? Oh no, so I tie it up.
That in the way.
I always do the tie up. Where I just do this method. And I basically make it look like a pharaoh, like an Egyptian pharaoh. That's kind of where I got the idea. And so, hang on, there you go. I'll get it for you. It only takes me a second. If I don't look at it, I can do it better.
That's the longest beard in the history of metal, man. Not even Jerry King has it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Ah, I see.
And that's normally how I keep it. Is typically like this, So, it's my look, man. I kind of started my own little beard tie. People do braids and dreads and all that stuff. Like I just do this like Egyptian pharaoh. And then it just pops right out.
Well, since you have your own studio at home, I saw some videos on your YouTube channel. You also do some covers, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do covers. I do mean to do more of those. I do enjoy doing them. I only did the last couple because that video I posted on YouTube of me driving in the car screaming, that was just I used to do that back in the day because when I was in Chimaira, people would ask for dumb stuff like that. Like, dude, you should scream this song in the car. Like, all right. Really? So I did, and then dude, that video of me doing Custer's at like 200,000 plus views.
Yeah, went kind of viral.
During because the most amount of views that video had was about 700. So now it's 200,000. So yeah, this last year it just went viral, and people have mixed opinions about it. But I was screaming. I do sound like that. And then that's why I did the follow-up video, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's just lip syncing." Like, yeah, that's kind of how I sound. I wasn't doing it to be like, here I am copying it. It was more like, here I am screaming along to this song. It wasn't to be like, look at what I can do. It was more like, sometimes I'd scream and drive. It wasn't meant to be like, look at me emulating Corey Taylor. So that's why I had to do a follow-up video.
Well, in case something happens to Corey Taylor, we can call Sean Graham and say, hey, here's Sean Z, man. Look at this video.
Yeah, look at this video. I could do it. I could do a lot of the singing stuff I could probably do, but some of it, he hit some crazy notes that I don't know that I'd be able to hit him. So I would just probably scream him, but I could definitely at least sound somewhat like him. I used a lot of that stuff to define my scream as I was coming up. I listened to a lot of Kill Switch. I listened to a lot of Slipknot. I'm from South Florida, so I was there. I was one of the first people to see the madness at that first Ozfest in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach Amphitheater. Yeah, so before the album came out, I had already had a copy of it because I knew a guy who worked at the CD store. So that's pretty much 99 is when I started really refining my scream, and that's what I used.
Since we're talking Corey Taylor's voice, have you ever heard of a band called Nothing Face?
Of course, yeah. I love Nothing Face. Big time. The project I just did recently, Velociter, that I just released, I find that it sounds a lot like Nothing Face. I did a lot of like those Nothing Face vocals, man. Audio Guide to Everyday Atrocity. That was like one of my favorite albums they did.
Yeah, I have right there in my collection.
That's a great one.
Nothing Face.
Same. Yeah, man, same, dude. I love Nothing Face. And what was that? Violence? That was a good one.
What was the one that they Violence. Did?
Yeah, what was the one that had like the baby head on it? It was like a doll's head or something.
Pacifier, the first one.
Pacifier, that was the second. Yeah, that's the
first
one. Oh, that was the first one. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I know I have that one.
Pacifier 97, Audio Guide to Everyday Atrocity 98, yep. Violence 2000,
Violence.
And
yep.
Skeletons 03.
I never actually got Skeletons. I meant to check that out. I'll have to give that a listen because I've always been obsessed with that band.
Yeah, it's really good. It's much more melodic than the previous ones, but it's still great. Really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you heard that new project I put up, but if you have a chance, give it a listen. If you like Nothing Face, then it's very 90s. Velociter, Velositor, Velociter, yeah. And it's even the cover is purple and green, and the reason I did it was because Audio Guide is purple and green. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not exactly Nothing Face, but you can definitely hear the influence in there. It's very 90s.